Cinema has given us a gorgeous myth. A golden dog with the smartest eyes runs through a storm, rescues orphans from a burning barn, and in its spare time, apparently, solves differential equations. And right next to it in canine handbooks, the Sheltie has always stood proudly, and the average layman's brain would instantly make the most frequent and annoying mistake. Oh, look, it's just a miniature lassie. At first glance, it really seems like the choice boils down to a basic roulette. We measure the free space in the apartment and pick the dog that fits the square footage best. But call a Sheltie a mini collie in front of its owner, and you risk hearing a lot of harsh arguments, because that is a massive misconception. Underneath the identical fluffy facade, two completely different beasts with totally different purposes are hiding. If you choose a dog based only on the length of its snout and the size of its bed, you risk getting either a nervous breakdown or a wrecked house. Let's brush the romantic dust off these British herders. Let's dissect them to the bone to see who is a vulnerable empath with a delicate soul and who is a fluffy dictator demanding constant action. Let's forget the idea that one dog is just a shrunk-in-the-wash version of the other. Their characters were forged by entirely different landscapes. The Rough Collie is a child of the endless Scottish hills. Their job was to manage huge flocks across vast, open spaces. They needed incredible stamina, fluid movements, and the ability to make independent decisions without bothering the shepherd over every little thing. This is a dog of long distances and calm calculation. The Sheltie, or Shetland Sheepdog, developed in the harsh, barren conditions of the Shetland Islands. Everything there is miniature, from ponies to sheep. But the local dog had just as much work to do. It didn't just herd, it also fiercely chased birds away from the meager island crops. She had to be nimble, sharp, and incredibly loud. A Sheltie is a living, foolproof alarm system. This is a true masterpiece of canine aesthetics. A collie floats above the ground, flaunting a magnificent ruff, and its profile looks as if it stepped off an ancient coin. They have the deep, attentive gaze of a philosopher who has realized the futility of existence. Height at the withers for these stately fellows reaches up to 24 inches, and the weight of a solid male stays around 66 pounds. But behind the royal appearance often lies vulnerability. The breed's insane popularity played a cruel joke on it. Mass show breeding for the sake of a beautiful coat heavily impacted the nervous systems of many bloodlines. By the way, there is also their smooth collie brother, a dog with the exact same genetics, but in a practical, short coat. Since this version escaped the crazy hype for purely decorative traits, smooth collies, as a rule, have retained a much more stable and resilient psyche. Granted, there are rough collies with nerves of steel, but today's typical representative of the breed is often an empath dog, prone to deep reflection and anxiety. Expecting this giant to rip a mugger apart for you in a dark alley? Let me disappoint you. A collie is more likely to provide emotional support to the intruder or pass out from a sudden shout. They absolutely cannot stand family arguments, harsh treatment, and loud noises. Their biggest issue is acoustic sensitivity, which often spirals into a full-blown noise phobia. Their typical reaction to severe stress, firecrackers, thunder, or a sharp bang, is panic and blind flight. For many collies, walking without secure gear ends with a bolt into the unknown. And if you add the herding instinct that makes them maniacally chase cyclists, a relaxed walk in the park easily turns into a quest to restrain a philosopher lunging off the leash. Now let's turn our attention to a concentrate of pure, undiluted energy. This is an uncompromising, fluffy controller whose life mission is to bring order to everything that has the nerve to move through space. Don't be fooled by that cute, foxy face. Inside, this seemingly toy body beats the heart of a massive working sheepdog. The dimensions of this tireless dictator are much more modest than the collie's. Height barely reaches 14 inches, and weight usually balances around 26 pounds. The breed's main weapon, its pride and joy, and simultaneously its curse, is the voice. A Sheltie doesn't just bark. She hosts a continuous podcast about her life. She comments on absolutely everything: the arrival of a courier, a fly buzzing past, your lack of enthusiasm, and her own sheer genius. In her arsenal, she has joyful barking, indignant barking, and a special skull-drilling ultrasound for cases when you throw the ball too slowly. Love silence and evening meditations. This dog will give you a nervous twitch faster than you can roll out your yoga mat. Second is the herding instinct, cranked all the way into the red zone. The Sheltie firmly believes that without her strict management, this house will instantly plunge into chaos. She will herd your kids, pack your guests tightly together in the kitchen, shut down unauthorized feline movements, and fiercely scold the robot vacuum for ruining its trajectory. And if any object dares to leave the flock without permission, her signature, uncompromising heel nipping comes into play. And finally, the intelligence. These are the straight-A students of the dog world with phenomenal reaction speeds, effortlessly crushing the competition on agility courses. But this brilliant mind has a dark side. A Sheltie picks up bad habits just as lightning fast as she learns complex tricks. If you don't funnel this atomic energy into sports or daily training, the Sheltie will start training you instead. And trust me, before you can even blink, you'll become a perfectly conditioned owner who throws the puller and hands out treats at the very first demanding woof. Friends, the video features illustrations created by the author. Our portfolio includes all dog breeds. If you'd like to explore them or purchase for personal or commercial use, follow the links in the channel description. And now, let's continue. Both breeds have specific vulnerabilities that you need to know about before even visiting a breeder. First is the MDR1 gene mutation. This is a critical bug. Because of it, the blood-brain barrier that protects the brain is compromised. A basic anti-parasite shot with ivermectin, common anti-diarrhea pills, or mild anesthesia at the clinic can send the dog into a fatal coma. A genetic test and a list of banned drugs in your pocket are absolute must-haves for an owner. Second is Collie Eye Anomaly, CEA, a specific hereditary condition that leads to the underdevelopment of the choroid in the eye and blindness. Demand clean test results from the puppy's parents. Third is grooming. Forget the romance. That magnificent mane will require a serious investment of your time and nerves. Mats behind the ears, in the armpits, and on the hind legs form at the speed of light. But the real hell begins during the rainy and slushy season. Think you'll be able to gracefully wipe their paws with a damp cloth after a walk? No chance. The gorgeous ruff, fluffy belly, pants, and royal tail act like a premium absorbent. They will soak up pounds of mud, puddles, and half of the nearest forest. Washing this magnificence turns into a daily quest involving basins, a shower head, and desperate attempts to rinse sand out of the dense undercoat. You'll spend more time washing the dog than you did on the actual walk, and then another hour blowing water out of them with a high-velocity dryer, because naturally, this fur coat will take until spring to dry. The shedding of these British dogs is a whole separate art form, single-handedly sponsoring the manufacturers of heavy-duty vacuums. Let's look at their reactions in typical everyday situations. Scenario 1. An electric scooter rider dashes past you at full speed. Collie will turn on herding mode at full blast. Don't believe the myths about royal calmness. This aristocrat will bolt after them with the grace of a thoroughbred stallion, try to cut off the offender, and make sure the two-wheeled vehicle beautifully veers into a ditch. Collie owners know exactly how many grey hairs this bicycle herding adds. Sheltie will unleash a sonic apocalypse. She won't just run, she'll turn on an ultrasonic siren, run circles around the wheels, and try to nip the rider's heels just to make this iron sheep finally stop. Scenario 2. You drop a metal pot onto the tile floor. Collie will curl into a ball, take deep offense to the very core of its soul, and go off to suffer in the furthest room. Sheltie will rush into the kitchen barking loudly to figure out who dared to breach the peace in her assigned perimeter. Scenario 3. It's evening, and you collapse onto the couch, completely exhausted. Collie will gently lie down beside you, rest its beautiful face on the edge of the couch, and just breathe the same air as you, the perfect relaxation companion. Sheltie will bring pullers, balls, and a tug rope. She'll keep shoving them into your hands and bark demandingly, hinting that your shift has only just begun. Who are these breeds completely wrong for, expecting a fierce perimeter guard or a tough, protective working dog? Pass on both. Suffer from loud noises, live in an apartment with paper-thin walls, and absolutely hate barking? Forget the word Sheltie. The collie is a dog for intellectuals, for those who love long walks in the woods, who know how to build gentle, partner-like relationships, and are ready to protect their pet's fragile psyche. The Sheltie is a workaholic on energy drinks. It's the choice for restless people, training fanatics, and those who are ready to get soaked in the rain on an agility field and can't imagine life without constant movement. You know what the biggest lie in old movies is? We were led to believe that British herding dogs belong to their humans completely and utterly. But the truth is, the Rough Collie is not a flawless, obedient servant. This is a dog that lives in its own head. Behind the royal stature and the gaze of a sage often hides a tangled mess of phobias and its own plans, understood only by the dog itself. It won't become your shadow, and it won't hang on your every word. Sometimes it will drive you absolutely crazy, trying to obliterate yet another cyclist or spiraling into a panic attack over a sharp noise. To love a collie is to accept its complex, fragile psyche without trying to break it. And when this perpetually detached aristocrat suddenly approaches on its own, rests its long snout on your lap, and freezes, you forgive it for everything. For all the snapped leashes and grey hairs, because you had to earn that connection. And the Sheltie. This is no philosopher. This is a spark. A tiny, noisy, sometimes unbearably annoying wildfire that will burn your autumn blues right down to the ground. With her, you will never have absolute silence or personal space ever again. But one day, you'll catch yourself thinking that without this deafening, demanding bark, your house feels dead. A philosopher with fragile nerves, or the kind of chaos that makes you feel alive every single second. Evaluate your strength honestly. And don't wait for TV miracles. And if you've already had your own complicated Scot or relentless Shetland hurricane in your life, head down to the comments. Tell me how they tested your limits. I read everything. Take care of your dogs. Until next time.